Krishna, dear devotees. Haribo. Thank you very much for everyone that's here in this call. Since we appreciate your presence
so much,
and we're happy to be with all of you. These verses are very exciting. I love this story in the Bhagavatam. It's such an instructive pastime, and it's even so much more relevant today in our world. And so I'm so happy, Gaura Sharan Prabhu, that you invited me to invited us to share some things from this pastime. So usually I start out the classes, and then Ekavira comes in and he does his thing. So
yeah, that's my
So we wanted
today I'm an observer.
No, today we wanted to focus this morning on something that we do as a couple, which is premarital mentoring. And in doing this premarital mentoring, this is we work with people when they come with they're not always devotees. They're thinking of getting married, and so we work with them. And one of the principles of this premarital counseling is a little bit of a pastime that helps the couple to understand how to address issues when they come up in their lives, because issues will come up. That's just a part of being in any kind of relationship. And so this pastime is in our premarital counseling book, and Ekavira will tell the story. This is actually by the late Krishna Nandini. She actually placed this pastime in the mentoring book, and so we both have so much fun when we talk about this pastime, because it really relates to helping us to kind of appreciate this pastime. Okay, come here, Prabhu.
She's calling it a pastime. It's actually it's a principle called finding the pony. So in every given situation, it's important to actually look for the actual essence, the pony. And so in this particular story, there are two children that desired to receive a pony for their, at this point it was Christmas. And so they begged and begged their parents, please give us the pony. And so the parents left them in suspense. However, on Christmas morning, they went down to the tree, and one of the brothers went and he saw this big, huge lump of dung. And he said, oh, no, we asked for a pony and all we could get was just this huge lump of dung. Oh, we've been such bad children. We just got a lump of dung. And then the other brother saw the lump and he said, whoa, we got a lump of dung. All we have to do is find the pony. The pony's somewhere around, and let's look for the pony. And so this is a principle, of course, of Vaishnavas, actually, not necessarily in this particular story, but Saragrahi, actually looking for the essence of everything in which we are engaged in, and looking for the essence of the scriptures, what's primary, what's supportive, and what's secondary. So in this particular pastime, let's look for these Saragrahis and look for the pony.
Yes, so let's look for the pony. So in this verse, in the first verse, 34, so we are reading here that Sujumna is transformed into this best of beautiful women. So we know that women are beautiful. Prabhupada says that. He says women are beautiful. And that's in the scriptures. And we have so many beautiful women in the scriptures. So what does it mean to be beautiful for a woman? When we talk about Vedic the scriptures, Vedic women. So generally that means for a Vedic woman, or a woman that aspiring to become a spiritualist, anyone that's aspiring to become a spiritualist, they're beautiful because they are attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that makes them very, very beautiful. And whatever physicality of beauty may be there may not be as important as their spiritual beauty. And so here we're reading this pastime. It's about a king, and so in some ways this this king, as we can understand in the monarch, they may be devotional in that they have some understanding, of course, of the supremacy of the Lord. However, as we know, the kings, they are considered to be very passionate, and we know that they may still have different kinds of material desires. And so we want to put that in perspective in terms of when we talk about finding the pony. So we want to understand this is a pastime about a king that is engaged in materialistic kind of activities. And so this is definitely a different kind of consciousness than someone that is engaged in devotional activities. And so this is how we want to look in terms of finding the pony in this pastime. And one thing I'd like to share as we go into the pastime is if we want to learn the details, the real details of this entire pastime, please listen to the class that was given by Chaitanya Charan a few days ago. Because Chaitanya Charan, I thought I would just listen to a few classes from the Bhakti Center over the past week. And then I got to listen to this class of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And I can't even find words to explain how this Prabhu, as a brahmachari, how he was able to address this verse in such a way, this whole pastime, not just the verse, the whole pastime, with such compassion and care and love. I was just so appreciative of Chaitanya Charan and his sharing of this pastime. So we're not going to go completely into the pastime because it's there, it's available. And I don't think there's a better source to hear it from. I have heard this pastime many times, many times. However, I've never heard it the way that Chaitanya Charan has presented it, with such kindness and such scientific understanding. So I kind of just wanted to share that. However, because Gaura Charan gave us these verses, we must say something. So seeing this beautiful woman, according to this verse 34, Buddha who Prabhupada says is not the Buddha that we know, not Lord Buddha. This is Buddha, the son of the moon, and he wanted to enjoy her, which is natural. Prabhupada says, butter and fire, men and women, that's the natural tendency. That men will want to enjoy women, especially in the material sense. In the material sense, men tend to, and women, they both see each other as sources of pleasure. And that's when someone is thinking that they're their bodies. It's natural. And for anyone that has in any way been introduced to Bhakti 101, one of the first verses that we get to learn is this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Vasham Shijirna me yata vihaya, right? And that verse from the Bhagavad Gita tells us that as a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, that the soul accepts new bodies, giving up the old and the useless bodies. So we understand this verse in the sense of we're not these bodies, that these bodies are constantly changing. So if we identify with being a woman, then we won't be able to find the pony in this pastime. It will be really hard if we identify with being a woman.
Oh, man.
Or a man, for that matter, or a man. Because although we know we have this material body, and although we really understand that this material body is our temple and we need to care for it, we also understand that this material body is attached, to our soul, and our soul is really who we are. And so once we have this understanding, then we can always find the pony in these different verses. So women are beautiful, men are attracted. Okay, so he's a king. He was a king, and he became attracted, and this person became attracted to him, right? Soma. And so we know why he became a woman. As I said, please go back to listening to Chaitanya Charan. So, but however, briefly, we know that Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati is a beautiful woman. Parvati is, and a beautiful woman. So women are beautiful. And so Parvati is having this, they're having an intimate situation. The sages come into this forest where they are, and they see them in this intimate situation. Parvati becomes embarrassed because she's a chaste woman. And in that mood of being embarrassed, Lord Shiva tells her, okay, then what we will do is anyone that enters into this forest, they will become a woman, any male that comes into this forest. Now, if we look at that and we find the pony in that, this is Lord Shiva, right? The husband. And what he's doing is he's creating a situation for his wife's comfort, for his wife to be able to be comfortable in this forest whenever they engage in any kind of activities, because now only women can come into this forest, right? Lord Shiva created it. And so here we have this beautiful, we have this personality, Lord Shiva, who we know who Lord Shiva is. And he arranges for Parvati, Uma, to be able to be in this forest and not allow any males to come in. So, however, we know that Sujumna comes into this forest, and he has his he comes in with his horses, and he comes in with all his army, and he gets into this forest, and he gets immediately changed into a woman, into being a woman, because that was what Lord Shiva promised his wife. And so now he's changed into a woman, and his horses have changed into a woman. Everything is changed into a woman. So now he's able to move around very freely in this forest in the body of a woman. So, I mean, somebody could look at that and anyway, there's so many different perceptions can be there about these different verses. However, our focus today is to find the pony, look for the essence. And so this beautiful woman, she accepts this person, Buddha, to be her husband, because now that's the nature of women. Women, when they get attracted to a man, they want that male to be a husband. They want that's how it's arranged by nature. And so then they have a child according to this pastime, Purava, and they get together. And then Prabhupada in the next verse, he says that which is really wonderful to hear. This is really a nice part of finding the pony, that Sujumna, when he became a woman, he remembered his spiritual master, which, when I read that, I thought about Gajendra, the elephant, and how when he was in the fighting, he remembered these prayers. And so this remembrance, Krishna says, he tells us in Bhagavad Gita, I am the source of all remembrance and forgetfulness. And so that he could remember his spiritual master was amazing. Vashishta, that was really quite an amazing quality that he had, that when the change happened, that consciousness of his spiritual master was still there. So that's an important point, I thought. And then the next one, upon seeing Sujumna's deplorable condition. Now I looked at that and I thought, oh, that's interesting, Srila Prabhupada. You know, Srila Prabhupada, he always creates what we call cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you arrange for people to really challenge their intelligence. And oftentimes people become disturbed. They become disturbed, and they, in that disturbance, they want to, they could either become frustrated and angry, or they could become inquisitive. That's what Srila Prabhupada does in a lot of his purports. A lot of his purpose creates cognitive dissonance. Somebody becomes intelligent, they wanna find out more, or they're like, this bhakti is not for me, right? So that happens. And so this word, Sujumna's, Prabhupada said, upon seeing Sujumna's deplorable condition. Now, when we look at that word, deplorable, and I'm pointing this out only because I know that this can create some disturbance. If we look at the translation, when we look at the translation of the verse, it says that, Sujumna, it says, Saha, he, Tashya of Sujumna, Tam, the sum, condition, the sum. This translation says the sum, condition. There is no deplorable in that translation. So Prabhupada is creating a situation. And so now those persons that are really attached to being a woman, that they think that, you know, that they're their bodies, that word deplorable can become very disturbing, right? However, if we find the pony, realizing that we're spiritual beings, that we're spirit souls, then deplorable, not deplorable, whatever, it's not a big deal. It doesn't become such a big deal. So this is really very important in our modern day society. We need to be able to explain some of the ways that Srila Prabhupada might present certain things in his purports. Anyway, Vashishta, Sudumna, Vashishta, the spiritual master. So the spiritual master is supposedly thinking this is a deplorable condition, which is quite interesting. However, the spiritual master, he wanted Sudumna to keep his maleness, to be able to still be a male. And if we understand this pastime, we remember that Sujumna is a king. He's a ruler, he's a leader. And in the Vedic tradition, in the Vedic times, the rulers, of course, the kings, they were males. They were not females. And so they were not in female bodies. And so therefore, the reason Vashishta was disturbed or aggrieved, he was sad. Actually, Prabhupada explains that he was really sad. He was aggrieved. He was sad that he had that he wasn't a male anymore, because he was like kind of a little concerned about what was going to happen to the kingdom, because he was a king and he ruled as a king, as a male. However, we will see, because in this pastime, as I read on and on, he did go back and rule, you know, as a woman and as a male. So this is like really an amazing pastime. And so now we're getting to the verse that we're actually reading. And so Ekavira Prabhu will continue with the verse.
So thank you, Vrajlila.
Haribol.
Just imagine this, place ourselves in this personality's shoes. They move into a forest. They're in one particular body, and then once they get into the forest, they're in another body. That's got to create some cognitive dissonance. And then, of course, coming out and then having this different form, and of course being attracted, and someone else being attracted to them, moving into seeing their spiritual master, and in a different form, then moving to this point where they are actually ruling the kingdom for 1 month as a male and then 1 month as a female. That's pretty intense. And so this particular pastime, as a matter of fact, all of the pastimes in this 9th canto, they are, just as everything in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are extremely instructive. And one of the things that came to us is that in this 9th canto, there's so many different rishis, so many different kings, empowered as they are with so much facility. And at the same time, with all of this facility, there's still the major problem of everyone that takes birth on the planet. And that's that spiritual problem, that we are, we are spirit souls, and that we are to serve the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, the canto ends in the last chapter, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so if rishis, with all of their resources, cannot solve the problem of kings, of all of the world, then how is it that we can actually consider that we will solve the problems of the world, even solve the problem within our own lives? In essence, material solutions is the thing that we tend to turn to solve spiritual problems. And so this is something that is really helpful for us to understand, that material solutions will not solve our spiritual problems. We must go deeper. And so here we find that Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the gotras of the Vedic system and the gotras of the familial or semen, familial succession, if you will. And so he says that they are both practically the same. And so it's important to understand what is the purpose of the gotra, what is the purpose of the succession. And the purpose is to actually help us define the pony, or define the essence, to go deep and understand what is the actual solution, not the actual solution problem, material engagement. So this is something, again, that's relevant for all of us, whether we are in male body, female body. Our families are there. We have these particular engagements, but at the same time, they are to be used in the service of the Lord and for the pleasure of the Lord. And what is the essence? Samsadir Haritoshan. All of our activities are to be engaged for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And so in this case, King Sajumna, here he's in the male and female form, and eventually we find that at a certain point, he has a certain realization. He is tired of moving from one body to the next. He's doing it from 1 month to the other, so it's pretty intense. However, the living entities, we move from one body to the next, and just as Vrajlila quoted the verse from Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, then there's also the Devi Dasi. So living entities, we're constantly moving from one body to the next, male form, female form. Sometimes we even have a human form. In the case of Shiva and Daksha, he has the form of a goat's head, and having to deal with this particular reality, moving around in the material area. So this is to help us to understand we must go deeper and engage into devotional service. And here, what is the main verse that we find that is instructive about Samsadir Haritoshan and pleasing the Lord? How do we please the Lord? By engaging in this devotional service. And we find a Sarva Padi Vinir Muktam, the verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's really from the Narada Pancharatna. And so devotional service means engaging all the senses. And what are the two results that actually come by engaging all of our senses? Well, one is that we become purified in that service by engaging the senses and directing the service to the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha. The senses are purified, and then also what takes place, one is freed from the material designations. And so that is the solution to the problem that we find that Subjuna is engaged in, and we find that we all are subject to. And so by engaging the process of bhakti, we actually can become purified from material designations.
Yeah, so yeah, this is the point of these verses, is to remember that we're not this material body, and that the solution, in terms of if we are thinking we're this material body, the solution to helping us to remember that we're not the material body is to engage in devotional service. And a Nectar of Instruction gives us some principles how we can engage in the devotional service. So it's really a process, and it's so nicely, wonderfully laid out by Srila Prabhupada. However, before I share those 6 principles of devotional service, which you will end in, I wanted to tell a quick story from this purport that Prabhupada talks about this Gotra, and because we hadn't spoken so much about it. And Kadamba Karna Maharaj, he tells this story about going to, he was in India before he became a devotee, and he went to stay in a dharmashal in Gaya. And so when he got to the dharmashal, they wanted him to register in, to stay. Those of us that have been to India, we know that, at least previously, I don't know if we do that anymore, because now we have our own dharmashals, ISKCON. However, before we used to stay in other dharmashals. And when he went to register, they asked him what was his gotra. And he said, I don't have a gotra. In our country, we don't have gotras. And so he said, we don't have that. And so then the person that was registering him, he says, okay, then just write on there that you're Jata. Just write Jata. And so Kadamba Karna Maharaj says he didn't know what Jata meant, and so he just wrote on there Jata. And then later he found out that Jata meant Aborigine. So he was considered an Aborigine to these persons, because everyone knows in India, everyone knows their gotra. They know their family lineage. And Prabhupada makes the point here that you can have this family lineage either from Semina or from disciplic succession. So we have this family lineage through the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya, because we are actually devotees of Krishna. So what happened is, Kadamba Karna Maharaj said later, after he learned what Jata meant, he thought, next time, he said, if I was to be asked that again, he said, I would tell them that I am Achyuta Gotra, that Achyuta, I am the Gotra from the infallible, perfect Lord. And so we are descendants of Achyuta Gotra. And then he gave the example also that in disciplic succession, because we know that our Brahmana Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is a Sampradaya of disciplic succession. And he said in the disciplic succession that our spiritual names, actually, when we go to India, if we are able to, if somebody asks us who's our father, we can actually write on there that our father is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. That is our lineage. That is our spiritual lineage. And so I just found that pastime of his so really instructive, and also in terms of understanding Gotras, and in terms of just understanding that how Prabhupada is using, he's explaining that in this report to help us to understand that we have the privilege, the honor, the right as Brahma Vaishnava Gaudiya, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, to be able to call ourselves Achyuta Gotra. We are coming from this infallible Lord. And so, and we have been given the privilege of devotional service. So back to the nectar of instruction. This is our closing for this class. Is the way to engage in devotional service, as we see Adipurush Prabhu. Look, I think he's sewing even, right? Is to be enthusiastic. Oh my goodness, look at that. Be enthusiastic. To endeavor with confidence. Yes, he's being, as long as I've known from New Vrindavan, back in the early days, he's been enthusiastic in devotional service. To endeavor with confidence. Yes, he's still going on in devotional life after 40 plus years, more, close to 50 years. Still engaged in devotional life. With confidence, knowing that we are Achyuta Gotra. We are parts of the infallible Lord. Also being patient. I have watched him. He's, I don't know how many people he's trained in devotional life. And it takes great patience to do that, to nurture people and especially now in Kali Yuga, where Prabhupada says everyone is a Sudra, we're all Sudras. And so the qualities and the characteristics of Sudras is we don't know anything. And to have a devotee assist in teaching and helping someone to understand this Achyuta Gotra. This is so significant. Acting according to regulative principles, which means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. We have Kamaniya here, who's an example, of chanting, right? We can just appreciate and really dive into this Achyuta Gotra understanding when we hear someone like Kamaniya chant, remembering Krishna, right? This is Gauracharan, this is what he does. He helps us to remember Krishna. Giving up the association of non-devotees, people that are thinking that they're their bodies, because in this pastime, changing of bodies is something that is prominent in our world today. And it's something that it can be difficult because society is just so harsh, and society just our society, our world can really cause people to have more emotional pain than is necessary. And so therefore, when we say abandoning the association of devotees, we're talking about associating with people that may not have a desire to learn about devotional service. And those persons, they can influence our own consciousness. So however, as Brahmanas, as teachers, we have a responsibility to help such persons. And so we can associate by helping, and to following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and the disciplic succession. So this is the whole purpose of this verse, is to find the pony, find the essence. For us not to get lost in, whether someone is a male or a female, they're thinking they're male or they're female, or whether there's a change of body. And we're so fortunate that in Srimad Bhagavatam, we can really understand change of bodies. We're so very fortunate. We can understand what this means, and we can understand it from a spiritual perspective. And so to understand that everyone, what's the verse? I can't remember right now, that Krishna is in the Adi Lila, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshiradakshaya Vishnu, the Lord, is within everyone's heart. So everyone is eligible to understand this Achyuta Gotra. And please listen to Chaitanya Charan's class.
Yes, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. We would just like to give you time for a couple of questions. Sorry. Ekavira can answer your questions.
No. We'll both answer questions.
Thank you so much, both of you, Prabhus. Thank you so much. Very grateful for your presence and the wisdom. Someone put in the chat like finally we found the pony.
Found the
We are
pony,
like,
yeah.
thank you so
And
much.
comments also, Prabhu,
Yes,
from our
please.
seniors. Please help us.
Please, Adi Prabhu. Would you like to say something, Prabhuji?
Made the essential point that the body may change.
Yes.
But in any body, we can serve Krishna. That we're not the body. I can remember in Vrindavan, we had donkey, we had cow, we had bull, oxen, we had different kinds of animals. So the body is like the animal that you're riding on. And you can't do with an ox what you can do with a horse. So even though you have a different body, and each body has a propensity that it can engage in a certain way.
Yes.
I mean, there is a propensity to your body. You can't deny that. It may not be the body, but if you're riding on a cow, you can't treat it like a horse. It won't do it.
That's right.
Even different, we used to work with the oxen. You want to put two oxen together, they have to be the same size, they have to have the same temperament. Some are very impulsive and passionate, some are more gentle and steady, you know. Different horses, different. Everyone has a different personality in that, and it's something that's the blend of the modes of material nature attached to the particular body we have. And so we have to engage in devotional service according to that nature, to the best of our ability under the circumstance. I'm sorry to talk so long. I see there's a lot of chat questions, but you made it very clear. We're not the body changes. And then in the context of what body that you've been given at that point, you can always engage in devotional service, but it might manifest in a different way due to your nature.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you for sharing. We so much appreciate. That's the thing about devotees, you know, we are to be kind and loving, no matter what body a person may be in, and what consciousness wherever that person's consciousness may be in that body. As devotees, we are to be loving and caring and nurturing. That's our service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Someone else may want to make a comment. Baba Muktananda, yes, Muktananda, my original guru, still my guru. Yes, I am, yeah, thank you so much. We need to connect.
We were just thinking.
Sorry.
Okay. We were just thinking that since we don't have a question at this point, we'll tell one particular story that happened a few years ago. There was a devotee family that came from another country, and they were coming to the US. They were coming through Mexico, and they were separated at the border. And eventually they came together again, and then eventually he was placed in incarceration. And he was there for months, and so much happened to him. He was attacked, his family was in distress, and he was in so much distress. And at one point, he's telling a story, he just, he made beads out of just little balls, strings from the sheet, and just made a set of beads that he can chant on. And one day he just prayed so intensely. Also, he was told that the judge that he had to face was very difficult, and all they do is they just send the people back to the country. And so he was in so much distress. So he prayed and prayed. And that night he had a dream. And in his dream, he was taken to Govardhan. And while he was in Govardhan, he was offering his obeisances. And when he got up, he looked and he saw this orange cloth, saffron cloth, and someone with a cane, and some people behind him. And as they got closer, he saw that it was Srila Prabhupada. And he bowed down, he offers obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. And then when he looked up, Srila Prabhupada came and he stopped and he looked at him. He said, Hare Krishna? And he said, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. He said, are you from Krishna Gotra? And the devotee said, yes, yes, yes. And he said, you'll be all right. And then he just kept walking. And so the next day, I'm sorry. And to end this, and so the next day, the judge was changed. There was someone that came, he was from India. And when he got there, the judge looked at his case. He said, what are you doing in here? Case dismissed. Anyway.
Yes, we're fortunate.
We're fortunate.
We're fortunate. Thank you very much,
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.